everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander, and I am, as always, honored and excited to get to host another Power to Fly virtual event. Now, just some quick call out stuff. Like I said, my name is Meg Alexander. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. You can also use they, bruh, pretty much anything you got. I am a 37-year-old white woman with blue glasses, pink and purple hair, and a black and white leopard print sweater on. I'm very excited to be joining you all and cannot wait to get today's event started. So let's go over some quick housekeeping items. This will be especially important if maybe today is your first event with Power to Fly. And if that's the case, then hi, you. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers, y'all. I love seeing our familiar names and faces in the chat. So thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. Now, the big thing to know about our virtual events is that they are all about you, and we encourage you to participate. So you can do that in a couple different ways if you'd like. You're always welcome to turn your cameras on if you want to share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But there is no need to be Instagram perfect, y'all, truly. Just because I got fancy and took a shower yesterday does not mean you cannot show up here with your 4-day messy buns, bathrobes. We do not care, okay? We just want to meet you where you are today. Now, if you want to participate, but you don't want to do so with your camera, that is fine. You don't have to. You can always head over into the group chat. My colleague Ria is in there sharing some links for y'all as we go through today's event. And we would love to encourage you to get loud in that chat. So feel free to jump in there. Let us know where you're joining us from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that used to belong to the Fox, Potawatomi, and Kickapoo tribes in my area. So if you'd like to let us know where you're joining us from, feel free. And if you know, feel free to share whose land you're on. Now, the big thing about our virtual events and the big thing to know is that we record this. So you don't have to take notes. You get to kick back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Jacqueline, and just enjoy it. Now, let's say that Jacqueline says something just mind-blowing, paradigm-shifting. You cannot wait to tell a friend or a coworker or a relative. You can do it in a couple different ways. So in about 4 to 5 business days, Power to Fly is going to email all of you with a link to where you can rewatch today's recording when it goes live on our website. Now, 4 to 5 days is a long time, but I can tell you for sure, the website is awesome. It has the huge archive, like the mother lode of all of our chats and stuff is there. But let's say you don't want to wait that long without, to go before sharing this great information that you learned with one of your friends. You can always head over to our YouTube channel. I'll share the link as we go here, but you can head to our YouTube channel. The video is posted there, usually by the end of the day, same day that we stream. Hi, YouTube. We're live streaming now. And you can also check out a big section of our recorded chats are also stored on that YouTube channel library as well. So I very much recommend that you check that out. Now, if you do want to chime in the chat, we'd love to hear from y'all. We've got people coming in from Chicago, Auburn, Washington, and somebody else from Ohio. Awesome. Hi, y'all. So please feel free to let us know where you're joining from. And please feel free to ask questions and add comments in that chat section, y'all. I want to know how you're feeling about what we're talking about. Maybe your lived experience has been different. Let us know. We're here to share and learn from each other, so let's do that. Now, just make sure as we are interacting with each other that we're always leading from a place of kindness and respect. And I don't know about you, y'all, but I cannot wait to introduce you to today's guest. So let's move on from our housekeeping and get to the real meat and potatoes of today's event. Now, our guest today, Jacqueline, is here on behalf of Relativity. Now, Relativity builds innovative and comprehensive tools for making sense of unstructured data. They have been an excellent partner with Power to Fly for several years now. And I'm really, really excited to introduce you to somebody from their org who can tell you more about what it's like to work within Relativity. Now, as we go, I'm very excited to introduce you to Jacqueline. Now, Jacqueline Sattler is a strategy leader with a bias towards action. She's an experienced advisor on multi-year growth strategies, as well as bringing key initiatives to launch. And Jacqueline understands how to translate a company's vision into practical impact. Now, Jacqueline is very grateful to work with legal technology leaders as a former chief of staff and current strategy and business operations leader at Relativity. Jacqueline is a proud champion of the company's Justice for Change program and can't wait to discuss the opportunity to leverage legal technology to tackle social and racial justice matters. Y'all, I'm sorry, English is the only language I speak and it's very hard today. Jacqueline, thank you so much for allowing me to butcher your bio. Is there anything else that you want our audience members to know about you today?
I'm truly grateful to be here and very excited to talk about my career journey. Let's see, my personal housekeeping. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm coming at you live from Chicago, Illinois.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. All right, y'all, we are going to go in and dive in on some of the questions that you asked today. So what that means, or what you should keep in mind, is that if we are able to get to your question, we absolutely will. But you took time out of your day to be here with us live. We want to make sure that we reward you for that. So if you've got questions, ask early, ask often. That's going to be the best way to make sure that you get a chance to have your question addressed today. Now, if we are going over one of your questions and maybe we're coming at it from the wrong angle, or maybe there's some context or some details you think we should know so we can give you a good answer, let us know in the chat, okay? I'm going to have eyes on target there the entire time. And if you have a question or a comment or anything that you would like raised, but you want to be kept anonymous, no worries, y'all. Just DM your question to me. You can find my name, Meg Alexander, in the dropdown, and I'll be happy to raise any question or comment and keep you anonymous. All right, Jacqueline. Let's start out here. We had a lot of questions to try and go through. Let's talk about some of the top skills that you focused on to advance your career. Now, before you do that, sorry, could you level set for us and what kind of career advancement we're talking about here?
Absolutely. So my career at Relativity seems like it's fairly long. I'm nearing 5 years at the company, but I've worn a few different hats since I've been there. So I started out as a chief of staff, which was an IC role focusing on our go-to-market organization. And then through there, I decided to transition into more of a team-based environment, moved into our strategy and business operations team. And then from there, I was like, you know what? I think management is the right path for me. And I pursued becoming a manager on that team as well. So a few different roles. And then that's just my day job. And then on the side, I love to give back and work with the wonderful resource groups that our company has to offer. And so I am a very active participant and leader in our Justice for Change program, which I can wax poetic about that all the time, but we will probably come back to that in a bit. But back to your question about, I guess, the skills that I needed to advance. I think about that in probably two buckets. There's one bucket of the practical skills to do the job, to be that subject matter expert on whatever your chosen field is. So for me, as like a strategy and business operations leader, those skills may be things relating to data intelligence, of knowing how to read data, how to take those skills and do the right analyses to get to the answers that we need, asking those right questions. Could be building a framework for how to make decisions. Could be building a process to have the most smooth operations possible. So that's like the technical subject matter expertise parts. But then there's also the people element and communicating the things that you're an expert on to others to get them to adopt the things that you suggest. So those are things like communication skills, playing up and engaging leaders, changing your story for audiences that are either more junior and need to know very tactical details to very senior and need to know the so what of why your work matters. So there's a lot of different skills, and I think the way that you focus and balance on those changes over time as you progress in your career, but those are some that come top to mind right away.
What was that shift like for you? As you were really moving from IC into management, when did that, when was the practical shift for you? Like when you're talking about developing different skill sets?
Absolutely. I think for me, one of the biggest learnings I had found was as an IC that you are truly the expert in those skills. And you can become extremely senior as an IC and spend your whole career there. And that's a wonderful thing to do. And you just become more and more excellent in your chosen field. So as an IC, I learned to really focus on either building out excellent processes for my leader or those teams as a chief of staff, or building them out for cross-functional teams and the strategy and biz operations team. But really, that switch happens to focusing more on those qualitative communication enablement skills to make you, in my opinion, an excellent and strong manager. So that's where I started to shift. Not only can I do the work, but then I stopped trying to become the top 1% in the SME area and instead moved into empowering others around me to take on those responsibilities and be able to be the one to help communicate, guide the decision making, and make sure others understand the role that folks who are more excellent than I am at those skills and how that can get communicated more broadly.
Okay, very cool. I like this. All right, let's talk about some of the practical steps that people can utilize or can take if they are in an individual contributor role right now, but they want to start developing leadership skills. we need to develop these skills before we have the opportunity to flex them, right?
Mhm.
So how do you think, what kind of practical steps can people take to develop them?
Ooh, it's a great question. I think there's probably a couple different flavors. The first is in a practical step one, I believe is always having a discussion with the leaders on your team, discussion with people doing the job that you want to have, and then your own like personal ideation. So what you are probably doing with your manager, the leaders on your team is you're saying, these are the skills of where I'm at now. This is what I think the next step looks like. Is that true? And are those the right things to focus on? And how do I get there? How can we together build projects that I should take on that let me demonstrate and flex those skills? How do I raise my hand for things that might not be traditional and work on that path together? Could talk to others like who are doing the job that you want to have and say like, well, what did your career journey look like? So I had reached out to others at our company and thankfully they're a wonderful, wonderful open door that I can just Slack them or have a call to them and they'll tell me about their experience. They'll say like, these are the things I asked for. And you might not think about that because you're thinking about how to do your day-to-day job excellently. And they'll give you ideas for like the art of the possible. And so that was really exciting. And then I think the last is sitting with myself and saying, like, what does my dream next step look like? And maybe I can just build things to what that is. And I see in the chat, someone says, make it known. That is exactly the right mentality to have is really sharing it confidently with others to help them become your champions. And then you can champion yourself and find those opportunities directly or indirectly at your company.
I love that advice to find them directly or indirectly because that a lot of times like it's what we think it's going to look like, right? That kind of either messes things up for us in our heads or
All right.
we kind of miss those opportunities because we expect them to look a certain way. But yeah, I think that's a really great tip, especially since like there's tons of ways to develop leadership skills that don't require a title or like a position shift,
Mhm.
for you to start showing other people. And Chris, thank you for chiming in with that make it known because we say this a ton, right? Like no one's going to be able to help you on your journey if they don't know where you're going or that you're even on a journey. So even if you're not sure where you want to go, but you're like, yeah, I think I want to be in leadership some form someday, make that known, tell people because nobody can help you if they don't even know that you're trying to go anyplace. Otherwise, everybody just thinks you're, hanging out. Chris is saying, chiming in again, be able to articulate the goal. What do you want to accomplish? And then direct managers will find ways to provide stuff to do. And that's a very good way to say it. It's just like, hey, this is the kind of thing I want to flex. Because there might not be other people on the team that want to do that. That's the thing. You don't know. You might be taking on a task that nobody else wants to do. And isn't that fabulous? Because now it's covered. So I think that's great.
Absolutely.
All right, let's kind of step back and take a little bit more of a long view here. How did you figure out if pursuing management was right for you?
I think for me, I really get a lot of my personal energy from working with other people and working with those to help them grow and stretch and self-actualize into wherever they want to go. This may be because I am an older sibling and I loved doing this for my younger sister. Maybe I couldn't shake it, but I absolutely
I
love
should have known. I should have felt it.
So maybe this is where some of it comes from. It's ingrained in me, but it's something that really makes me happy and excited to go to work every day. I love to partner with my teammates, but I also love to help them like raise up and get to where they want to be. So for me, knowing that I could not only like achieve the answer myself, but I could help other people achieve their goals, and then we could do something even bigger together, like that's exciting to me. So I think that's really what drove me to say, like, I think management is the right call.
That now, when you were kind of thinking in your head, like, yeah, these are the things I want to do. What were like some of the practical follow-ups that came with it, right? You were like, yeah, I want to be this person that's helping make those connections happen. What did you do to pursue those?
Yeah, probably a few things. I mean, the first is I, of course, made that known and was able to start the advocating process for myself. And then the second was finding opportunities to be able to do that indirectly. So kind of help lead people without really, I guess, in theory, the power to do so. So leading through influence and through shared vision together and getting those at bats initially. So in my strategy work, I was able to, talk about this with my manager and start mentoring and working with more newer folks on the team. So I wasn't their manager, but I helped provide guidance on how they should run a project, the best way to engage with other folks on our team, where the tools are and what to work on, and having that quick help and iteration to help them quickly get up to speed and onboard into the role and hopefully expedite what they're doing. That was definitely thing one that was within my power, within my day-to-day job description. Thing two was looking at what could I do at my company? And I think this is where the Justice for Change program really helped me accelerate my career because this was something I volunteered to do outside of my day job to say, like, can I help lead an initiative that is near and dear to my heart? And I think is a wonderful way that our company supports our community. Maybe I should say what that is, and then I can talk about what my role is with that group. So our Justice for Change program is incredible, in my opinion. It is a way that we have systematically developed to give our software, which helps legal groups and organizations organize big data, discover what the answers are, and hopefully achieve their outcomes, and give that to these organizations on the ground who are fighting for social and racial justice, because those folks often cannot afford to buy a powerful technology like ours on their own. They're not necessarily big law firms or big organizations. They're your like local innocence project groups who are fighting against wrongful convictions, and they're a nonprofit. They don't have a lot of money to spend on the flashiest, coolest new tech. So it was really exciting that our company was like, you know what? We can put this into the hands of organizations doing this work because we think it's really valuable to both give back and increase the impact of what they can do because technology should be for all in the way that we can make that possible. So I really aligned with that vision and I said, raised my hand and said, please tap me in for whatever I can do to help. Please get me in on the ground in day one and work with some amazing folks in our company to build that program. So I got to be the person who can help form our initial committee of people who wanted to help and tap into their different skills for what they were doing. I got to help like educate our executives on what we were even pitching to say like, this is why we think this is important. Is this good? Can we keep running with this? And then helping others sign up to get involved. Either how do we build our operations process so that we could do this as a company seamlessly, smoothly, as if we were doing any old deal, but do this instead for in terms of giving back. Or help folks, get involved themselves. Help coach them to be the people to engage with these organizations who've never heard of our company before. Help them communicate it with our existing customers to help them get involved, or even others altogether. But it's been truly a gift, and it's been a way to work with folks across our company that I'm not in charge of by any means, but they're listening to me, which is very, very kind and generous of them. But flexing those skills of leading a group with a shared vision helped me then take those skills back to my manager, my team, saying, hey, I'm doing this over here for volunteer. Maybe I can do this also for my day job as well. That sounds like a good idea.
Is. I love all of this. And truly, I mean, the chat's blowing up, but like Chris is right on the money here. Influencing without authority is a key leadership skill. And that's not to say that like if you lead but you're not doing so with authority that it's somehow invalid or something, but like it's one thing to know that people are listening to you because you're in charge, they have to listen to you. It's quite another to be like, oh, they're listening because this is a smart choice, because I'm directing them smartly, because people want to be led successfully, right? They don't just want to be led by the nose wherever because hopefully you know where you're going. So I think it's really good that you had that opportunity to try and develop that skill because it is so incredibly valuable. And honestly, it makes for better leadership, right? Like it makes for leadership that is less ego based and more about like what's good for the org. That's actually something that I wanted to ask you about too.
Yeah.
As you were trying to think about like moving into management, were you also thinking about like the practicalities of like how your day was going to change if you were no longer in IC, some skills you wouldn't get to flex anymore? Was that something that played into your mind at all?
Yes, but I think for as you're moving along your career, advice I was given was try to be excellent at and go after the things that make you excited. Don't try to do the tasks that you think you have to do, but you don't want to do. And for me, the
Mhm.
things that were exciting were bringing groups of people together, problem solving through those issues, prioritizing the decisions we're making, and like leading a group through either a process, through a decision to get to an outcome. Those are all things that I view that are important as a manager versus maybe the person who comes in as the expert with the answers to your targeted questions. So I was gravitating towards that work, and that's how I wanted my day to day to change. So I think in that aspect, it felt like a the right next step.
I like that. Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit more in depth about your role. Can you tell us what it's like to have a career in strategy and business ops? And could you also kind of detail about what makes that different from like a position on chief of staff?
Absolutely. I think strategy and business operations is one of the coolest fields out there because you are really brought in to be a strong like thinker and frameworker, but sometimes you don't always have the expertise and the things that folks across the business are doing. So I think it's an amazing opportunity both to learn about what field you might want to specialize in after strategy and business ops or stay in this forever. Like I'm just like a lifelong learner, and I think this is the perfect role for that. So you're on different projects that change throughout the course of the year. One month, I could be working with our finance team, helping us develop our metrics for how we talk about our business to our board. Another month, I could be working with marketing and saying, which customer segment should we be going after because our data is telling us that they're more likely to adopt our product. Another month, I could be working with product and saying, hey, like, we have this idea. Do we think it's worth escalating as a business case to our leaders and put it on our roadmap? And to me, that is the coolest thing in the world. I think that is so awesome that I get to learn these different parts about our business and really act as a coach and a guide to help these experts and leaders in different functions make decisions. I think for that, like strategy and business operations, it's very cross-functional. In bigger companies, they may specialize more in a specific org or leadership team. But as a chief of staff, that's almost always focused on a specific leader or department and are really focusing on that area. So as a chief of staff, I was focused very much on our go-to-market side, which I still love. So the leadership team I'd work with was often in sales, marketing, or customer success. And I think that's awesome. But also my like peers and my team were very seasoned leaders. And so you have to love that. You have to love being an IC, and you have to love enabling a very specific function. But when you go into strategy and business operations, maybe the doors open a little bit more and you work with other leaders across the org and you have a team again. I liked having a team of peers of other leaders like myself and the opportunity to also build a team, which I thought was really exciting.
That is really cool. And I think it's also something that maybe people don't, not that they don't think about, but like we sometimes don't get to choose, right? A lot of times you don't
Mhm.
get to choose if you're going to get a new team or an existing team, if you're going to, so I think that is really, I like that you're kind of forward thinking along those lines of like, what would this look like either way? I like that. Okay. And Ria's chiming on, sending more information in the chat as well. So if you've got questions, please feel free. Let us know. Send those in the chat. And if you'd like them to be anonymous, just DM them to me directly. You can find Meg Alexander, my name on the dropdown. All right, let's talk about what drove you to change roles at Relativity and what was that process like once you decided you wanted to move?
Sure. So my big role change, I believe, was moving from a chief of staff role into the strategy team. I think I'd already talked about like what the team dynamics felt like and things I was more drawn to. But I think the other reason I was thinking about changing roles were the types of questions and problems I was solving. As a chief of staff, a lot of what you're focused on is the process and operations and, building that machine that hums smoothly for the team. I thought that was really cool, really fun. You're organizing things relating to offsites. You're planning what the strategic meetings are where the decisions start to get made. You're, helping create communications for your leader to help enable the full team. I thought that was very cool. But I think I was ready for a change to answer different types of problems that are maybe a little bit less about process and a little bit more like strategy, where you're saying, okay, as a business, we want to do this activity. Should we or should we not? Is that a good idea? Is that a good use of our resources? And so instead of being the person to curate the discussion and what the answer is, I got to be the person to help start recommending them. And that to me felt really cool and really exciting. Um, and I was really lucky that Relativity made that process of changing very smooth. So once you make your intentions known or your goals known, you start to have conversations with leaders in those teams and say, hey, I like this. Will you consider me a few months from now into a role like this? And I was doing this exploratory type of conversations with folks all across our business to see what was the right next step because it felt ready in time. And what was incredible was that because I put myself out there, they were able to come back and let me know when those openings were happening. And it was super easy to have that conversation, to have that interview process with them that felt very smooth, and join in when they were doing that as well. And Relativity made it really easy to just do that, do the application and apply. And then when they told me that it worked out, pretty seamlessly coordinate with my outgoing leader and my incoming leader to make that switch. So to me, that felt like truly like a gift. I don't know if it's that smooth at all other companies, but it was a really fun organic process.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jobron's chiming in the chat that saying that giving a chance to new talent opens new horizons for new ideas. And that's so true. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot is that it's not just visual diversity, it's diversity of thought, it's
Mhm.
diversity of background, it's diversity of how you were trained, the kind of things that you've had access to in your lived experience as opposed to someone else's. And yeah, I mean, if you're trying to do things in a different way that you haven't done them before, you need to look elsewhere for people. You need to look for different skills. So I think that's wonderful that they were like, okay, well, if you're doing great work for us here, but let's see if we can find some place that you'd be happier. So I think that's wonderful. All right, let's talk about how you brainstorm those goals, right? If you're aiming for personal or professional growth, you have to have goals to kind of like reach along the way. What is your approach to setting and brainstorming those effective goals?
Yeah. To me, and something I've worked on with my manager is it probably takes two forms. There's the very near term tactical specific skills that you think are interesting and you think would help you get to maybe where you think you want to go. And then the long term, like pie in the sky, 5, 10 years from now, if you could have your dreams, what would it look like? And work backwards from there. And so I think developing your goals to go like up and then down, kind of, and see where you meet in the middle is how I started to craft them. So for those like tactical ones, we at our company have like competencies that we talk about on our team to say you need to be excellent at cross-functional leadership or excellent at business acumen or data intelligence and saying, okay, these are the skills, these are kind of the things that go under it. How do I get there? What are the types of projects I should start to ask for? What are the ways I need to demonstrate I'm good at them and have those conversations and build goals around getting those at bats and showing excellence repeatedly at those things. But then the other way of like looking at your pie in the sky dream, I was like, oh, what if one day I want to be a leader of my own product line or my own little mini business? What does it take to get there? It takes some of these smaller steps, but it also takes like big dreams of themes of things. So I'm like, okay, are the themes like engaging and empowering a team of people? Is it having strong knowledge of your product and your industry? And then how the marrying those two with my boss has been the thing that helped me set both of those types of goals and working on that really practically.
I like this. And it's really nice to hear other people break this down because like it can seem like a huge task and a huge undertaking, right? Oh no, I'm just going to change everything. And then it's like, well, how do I do that? No, I'll just go watch, Friends for the 14th time.
Right.
And I think it is one of those things that you have to think differently than how you've thought in your career thus far. And you have to think in a way that I feel like a lot of us are maybe not necessarily coached to think when it
Mhm.
comes to our professional lives.
And
So
there
yeah, I
isn't
think
one path to get there as well, because I think people
exactly,
think like, I want to
yes.
be this type of leader, I have to do these steps in this order. But if you're thinking about it as themes, then and you realize people's careers paths like are very windy roads, it makes you feel more comfortable trying new things because there's a million ways to get there, and it's not the one that you expect.
Yes. 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 Love, love, love all of this. Okay. Now I want to know from y'all in the chat here if y'all are good at brainstorming your goals, if you struggle with this. So if you're good at it, give us a +1. If it's something you struggle with, give us a +2. Because I struggle. All right. I am hard. I'm driving bus number 2 at this point. But I want to know what it's like for y'all. Because some people find it really easy to kind of sit back and kind of take stock and all right, I'll just meditate on this. Some of us are a little bit not great at it. So if you're like me, give me a +2. I want to see what the breakdown is in the chat today. Oh yeah, Kim, Ria, awesome. Jeanette, Ipsita, what show offs. Gosh, look at you guys, so good. You're so able to do the things. I'm so proud of all of you. All right. This one's kind of a big question. I really like it and it's weird, but I wanted to know what is the biggest risk that you have taken in your career so far, and do you think it paid off?
That is a great question.
Right? It's a big one.
It It's scary too, because I think that taking a people, like if you're thinking about regret, you probably regret not taking the risk than taking the risk and it not working out. And so that's something I've been trying to adopt more in my career and taking the leap a little bit more often. I think a big risk that I had taken in my career was raising my hand for a project that I had no idea if I was going to succeed, but was going to help me for my pie in the sky dream one day of knowing what it was like to run a business myself. So I raised my hand to say, I would like to do this. I think I would like some help. And they threw me into a project that was relating to an integration of a new like company, product, and people. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what they were doing, and I was talking to very senior folks who they were experts and I was not, but at least I was an expert on the company they were joining. Uh, and, and it was a huge risk to give me that responsibility to help organize and wrangle and talk to all of these folks who I'd never met before and help be part of their success. Because it's success for them to integrate into our company as smoothly and seamlessly and good for our business, but I'm not an expert in that type of work at all by any means. I've never done it before. And so it could have gone horribly wrong. We definitely had hiccups along the way. Things did not go as we planned. The timing was different. We found things under the hood when we lifted them that we didn't know were there before. But I believe it really paid off because it increased my personal confidence. It said, like, you know what? I don't have a map of what to do, but I can build one. And I can ask people who are smarter than me, who are like have more experience than me to help along the way. And doing that made me really comfortable in my career. It helped me build more of an executive presence. It helped me feel like I could handle anything that's ambiguous and we'll figure it out. Like that can-do attitude came from taking this risk. And I would do it again. Maybe not this type of project and this type of work. I learned that's not for me, but I would happily try something new again and see how it goes and see what I learn.
I completely agree. When I think back on like risks, I mostly think of the ones I didn't take, right? I don't really think in terms of like, oh yeah, that was super risky. Like, I mean, I've changed, oh man, I think I'm on career 4 at this point, 5, something like that. Like, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people in my age range that have done this as well. And I think it sort of helps you to realize that like they don't necessarily feel like big risks at the time, or if
Right.
they do, they might not really be that big a risk. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it felt like something that was super high stakes. Like I don't know. I left law school and decided I wasn't going to be an attorney and work in the legal field. So that was a huge shift. I mean, I don't know. I think I've done it multiple times, but I think the one, like the risks that I regret are the ones I didn't take, not the ones that I was like, well, I tried it, thought it might work.
Right.
So yeah, I like that. Um, when it comes to thinking in terms of, the biggest risk you've taken so far, did it pay off? Do you hope that there are bigger risks in store? Or do you like the
Oh,
idea that you are like maybe past the risk stage, or you're past the like scary part of like, should I do this or shouldn't I?
I think to me, I I believe I thrive in trying to pursue a growth mindset. And I think that goes hand in hand with taking risks. I think the moment I become too comfortable at what I do, and I think I'm too excellent at it, what have you, that's when I stop growing and advancing. Like I think I could become very good and I'm comfortable hanging out. Maybe I have other priorities going on in my life, like personal things I want to focus on, then okay. But right now in my career, like I want to keep going. I want to take on bigger problems, work with more people, advance my role. I think I have to take risks to get there. And I have to be open to learning something that I didn't expect going in. So right now,
Yes.
yes, but not everyone has to be that way.
No, I think that's wonderful. Learning the solutions and learning things about yourself that you didn't know you were going to learn going into it. I very much like that. And I also love the idea of continuously taking risks because, as we say a ton on here, our brains are not wired to learn from success, they learn from failure. So if you're going to keep learning, this you're going to have to keep being slightly uncomfortable or slightly out of your
Right.
comfort zone so that you can make sure that you're still progressing. All right, let's talk about some self-advocacy and networking. Networking is a huge thing that we talk about here, and I feel like it means something different to everybody. So when I'm like, hey, let's talk about networking, what comes to mind for you? What do you consider networking? Let's kind of set the level base here for this area.
Yeah. I think networking is I think building your personal army or even community of people that you can learn something from and hopefully teach them something in return. I personally believe networking is not a one-way street, that it is about building relationships and community to all rise together. It may be in different ways and different times, but I think that is first fundamental number one. I think number two, if you're thinking about your army, you can bring in people in your network that serve different purposes. I think there's folks that can help you become excellent in your like domain or field. Like if you're an IT person, someone who can help you become excellent in that. If you're a data scientist, someone who can become excellent in that field. There's people who can help you learn about your company and how to navigate working with your company, how leadership works, how what other opportunities are there. They can teach you that. And then there's folks who are like probably even more senior who can say like, here's what it's like just to be a leader. Or I've had a long career and tried different things on, and this is how I figured it out over time. And I think all those different roles are important to have in your network. And how I view networking is collecting those folks for all those different types of things you want to learn.
Yeah, I love that you talk about it being a two-way street. Reciprocity is huge. And I think it's something that we don't necessarily think of early on in our careers, especially if we're like pivoting or something like that, where we're like, well, I don't know anything. So what am I going to be able to do? What am I going to bring to this conversation? I can't teach them anything else. I'm the one that needs all the help. That might be true now, but it also might not be true. They might also be wanting to learn something from you they just haven't said yet. But the other part of it is if you stop thinking of it as a gimme, gimme, gimme kind of thing, and thinking of it more as that two-way street, it becomes far less awkward to talk to people and ask
Mhm.
people what's going on. Because let's be real. Yes, you might be in the asking for something place now, but you already know something that person doesn't. Just because they're not asking for the information yet does not mean that you're not a valuable source of it.
Right?
And like, just because when we're talking about networking, it's not necessarily about knowing the right people. It's about knowing people who know the right people. And
Hmm.
you might be that person later on down the line that is able to say, oh, you want to talk to so and so? I came up with her. She's cool. Let me give you her like info. So really, this is kind of what we're aiming for is that two-way street and making it a thing that feels beneficial, not just in a like, fine, I did the thing, now I can get the benefits of it. It's like, no, this should be enjoyable. When you are going around and thinking in terms of networking, are there any like activities that you go do? Do you only network outside of your company rather than internally? What does this look like in practice for you?
Sure. I'd say I actually spent a lot of time networking internally in my company in the more recent times because our company's like, I think it's large. I think having over 1,000 people feels big to me. My company before this only had like 40 to 50 folks, so this is very, very different in terms of scale. But to me, networking was really leading through curiosity. It was meeting someone at a company event that might have been about something else entirely. It could have been a trivia night or some other type of game night and just asking this person what their story is and just understanding who they are and what motivates them and what gets them excited. And honestly, building a friendship in part just to understand like who they are because everyone I think is really cool who works at our company. And then from there saying like, oh, there are probably things we can learn from each other. Even though like I'm not an engineer at all by trade, the way engineers think about problems are so interesting and methodical and cool. So like I might not be coding, but I might be thinking about my work in a way that an engineer does. And I wouldn't have learned that if I didn't go talk to that person at that company event just to say hi.
Yeah, of course. And I think this is something that like, I like that you talk about doing it internally as well, because like networking does not just mean people outside your company. And whether your company has 10 people or 10,000, there are still people that you either don't know very well within your company or maybe don't really understand their job function. And truly, y'all, I learned this from one of my autistic friends, and she's a genius when it comes to like social interactions, and it always boggles my mind. She treats it like a video game, and so she asks, she pretends like you get 2 points every time you ask someone about themselves, and you lose 2 points every time you say something about yourself. And truly, y'all, that was game changing. True, like even in just like a really basic networking, like cocktail kind of event thing, absolutely game changing to try that take on socializing, I guess. It made it really interesting for me and kind of brought me to get to know better things about people. So I really liked that advice. All right. There are a lot of people that wanted to kind of take the bull by the horns or take the reins and kind of like, direct themselves or create opportunities for themselves. Do you think this is possible? And if so, how do you think people can go about creating those opportunities that they're looking for?
I'd say yes. First off, yes, blanket, yes, it is entirely possible to, what we like to say a lot at Relativity is own your own career because ultimately the journey that you're going on is yours and yours alone. And there are champions and mentors and folks to help lift you along the way, but you're the only person who knows how to get to where you're going, even if the road doesn't seem clear. So there may be things that you know what to do. There may be folks you ask for help along the way. And there may be opportunities that are in your job role. So you know how to build them out for yourself and go after them. Things like we had talked about before. But there are also probably ways to go after the skills that you want that might not be immediately available to you. And that's when you raise your hand for things that you're passionate about outside of your day job. This could be, an organization that you sit on like the board for, you volunteer for to build those skills outside of work. It could also be organizations inside of your work, like I do with the Justice for Change, to say, I want to get better at um, I'm trying to think of building like really strong processes for how to like take a customer through the entire sales process, for example. That's not something I would do in my day job, but something I could do in like the job I volunteered to do at my company. I was able to seek that out and able to like try it out in a place that was safe and definitely needed the help and would love to have someone volunteering their time and really reaching for those things in non-traditional ways. Because I think you shouldn't wait for your manager or your company to give you the opportunity. Sometimes you do need to go out and drive that yourself. And it's possible. And I think you can really do it if you start to build that vision of what you think you want.
Oof, I'm loving all of this, y'all.
Oh,
Like, and honestly, like, there's so much stuff where it's just like, I have nothing better to say. You know what I mean? Like, nothing that I'm gonna say is gonna put any more of a cherry on that. So, chef's kiss, fabulous, loving all of this. Okay. Oh, all right. So you've talked about the Justice for Change initiative. Can you tell us what inspired your involvement in it, or what was really like the trigger for you to be like, I'm gonna get involved with this?
sure. I guess talk about career pivots. This is a kind of like part of the reason why I love Justice for Change and signed up in the first place. Growing up, the things I thought I really wanted to do was get into politics. I loved like helping people and giving back and talking to others. I studied public policy in college. I was like, this is what I want to do. I spent like one summer in working for the government and said, you know what? No, thank you. This is not for me. Nothing at all like I want to do. But now what? And so I ended up in like more of a business focused field. I ended up in technology. I ended up on a strategy team. But the threads of why I was interested in giving back always stayed true. And so I wanted to then take that passion and that interest and put it into a new setting. And so in with Justice for Change was like that exact opportunity to like do something that I am passionate about. It's like a mission I align with of really helping power the pursuit of justice for others, but in a medium that I felt way more comfortable in than the bureaucracy of politics. And so it was a really beautiful like marrying of the two of a personal passion and interest and where I was in my career and the position I was in to give back. It just took a different form.
I like that. I very much like that a lot. And you're right, being able to express these things, again, we keep coming back to it, but it may not look like what you think it's going to look like. Try
Right.
if you're trying to get to something and you have not been able to get to that place before, then wherever it is, whatever the direction it is you're trying is not working. So, think outside the box, think in terms of how can I get this opportunity and what is within my own control, because there is a lot that we do honestly have control of ourselves. So I think that's a really, really great point. Okay, let's talk about this control. Do you think that you have been driving your career journey, or do you think that maybe your career has been driving you? Do you feel like that you've had power to really shape your career, or do you think that it's been more about kind of experiencing what you've come in contact with along the way?
I say yes, I believe I have the power, but not in the way that folks might think. I believe I have the power in that I may not have like the full menu of endless opportunities in front of me and get to like pick them. Like that is something I don't believe I have. but I do have control about what I pursue after and like with the path I do. So I have the power to pursue projects that I think are really interesting within the scope of my role. I have the power to raise my hand for things outside of my job to help give back at my company. I have the power to follow leaders or other folks that I think are interesting and just see what I can learn by like following the passion. And I think to me, like that's the ultimate power. It's like I've learned what to say yes to, which I think is a really important thing, even if it isn't like the traditional way of I have exactly scoped out all the things that are happening in the next 3 steps out from here. So yeah, that's how I view it.
I like that. We've got people chiming in from the chat thread as well. Chris says, my career drove me for my first 13 years until I purposely documented what I wanted. And then I had conversations with folks to figure out how to get there. And yeah, I think that that's really, really accurate. Some of us, and we talk about these things, right? About how like, oh yeah, you're in the driver's seat of your career and blah, blah, blah. Fully recognizing y'all, the fact that like a lot of us don't have a choice. Like we have to, nobody knows how to live on water and sunshine. So we all have to have jobs. We have to, we ruined it all. We could just be hanging out with butterflies, but instead we were like, no, we want credit scores. So, I like that, you know what I mean? Like, as we're
Yeah.
talking about these things, like there are absolutely situations and situations and like things that you might find yourself in where you don't have that option, and truly understandable. Like not everybody's going to. I have been there many, many, many times. But knowing that you are not able to control a lot of the things about like where you're born in the world, what situation you're born into, blah blah, blah. There is still ways that you can take control of your career. And I'm honestly in the same boat. Like I didn't control anything about my career for like the first 10 years, just about, because it was just point A to point B, jumping from rung to rung. So even if that does feel like something that describes you can take control of your career. You don't have to let it continue on that way if you're not ready. Like if you've decided this is something you don't want anymore. Let's see here. Oh, finding mentors. Okay, this is a huge one. People always want to talk about it. How have you found your mentors, your sponsors, people that have like kind of helped lift you up or been like kind of your buddy within the working world? How have you found those?
Sure. It's been a bit of a mix. I think some mentors came from being involved in a project I had worked on. So someone who maybe they popped in like once a month, but everyone else I was working with on the day to day. And I was like, oh, you're really interesting. Like, can we have a conversation just about, what motivates you, how you got to where they are? I'd love to learn from you. And then building our own separate relationship outside of the day-to-day project work helped me learn so much about how to craft my career and how to not be intimidated by folks who are more senior than me, have more life experience than I do, because then they became truly a mentor of someone whose opinions I value, someone who provides guidance when I'm stuck at a crossroads. I still will go back to those folks and folks I may have been months since I've worked with them, but still ask for their help and their thoughts and their guidance. Offer whatever feeble things I can in return. Hopefully they just find me, funny and endearing. And that's what they get out of the relationship. But those are some like one of the ways that I help find people who I just follow the people I think are really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but like I'm far more we talked about personal board of directors on a chat yesterday, and that was like a really big thing. I don't know if you have one. I kind of mine waffles back and forth. But I think it was really interesting how people talked about finding mentors or finding people that would assist you in a specific area, right?
Hmm.
You're not looking for a mentor that knows everything about what you're doing and is on the same career path and all of these things. You're trying to find somebody that's going to help you, but it's not going to be like you're finding yourself 20 years in the future, right? So I like the idea of thinking not in terms of like nobody needs like 80 mentors, but having a couple like kind of in rotation of like this is the person that I talk to when I need help with I'm trying to think, like I worked in purchasing for a while. I was in like supply chain logistics purchasing. Let's talk about how bad a fit that was. But like it really was one of those things where it's like, okay, if I have problems in this area, like I'm gonna go talk to this person. But if I'm like curious about like how the C-suite works and how to level up within there, I'd talk to somebody completely different. So I do love this idea of like finding those mentors, not trying to find your picture perfect whatever, but like try and find somebody that knows something more than what you know on a specific area. I very much like this. All right, let's talk about kind of pushing it forward and passing things on. How do you help people on your team when they want to grow or they want to explore their careers?
These are the things that get me the most excited because I'm not extremely far along in my career, but the opportunity to give something back, that's what I gets me waking up every day and opening the laptop and ready to sign on. For me, I am so excited to take the things that I have learned, or even the people I know, or the projects I've tried, or the ways I've failed, and share that with the folks on my team. So we will talk about the things that get them motivated, what makes them excited to log on every day, even if it isn't the job directly itself, it's what maybe they wish it could have, or their dreams, both near term and long term, and helping be part of, like, I guess, hopefully their board of directors, even if it's in a smaller set of problems rather than the bigger set, to help them get to where they're going and help them think creatively about opportunities they might not have known about. They might not know that our company has a program that can help you transition from, any other role in the company into being a product leader. Like that's something very unique that we have that they might not have known the day one that they joined, that that's something they could do and they could transition to. And so they might not know that other folks in our company be willing to talk about their experience or their circuitous path to get there. So I might give them a list of people that I think you should reach out to those folks to find cool, or I can make the introduction for you. That's something that gets me really excited. It's something I think it is easier to do that for others than maybe to do it myself. But I think the moment you show your team that you are a champion of their hopes and dreams, the better it is really for everyone. They're more excited to do their job. They come doing excellent work and they get to where they want to go faster if you do your job right, if I help them correctly.
Yes, yes, I love this so much. Truly, like that when you find people that are gonna support your growth, not just if you're in that same department or just if you're still at that same company, finding people that are excited about the growth of other people, right? Because we all know if you've been in the working world more than I would say more than like 3 or 4 years, it's really easy to see like there are people that purposely grow in their careers. There are people that don't because they just don't feel like it. And then there's people that are kind of in the middle that aren't really taking initiative, and maybe they're doing well, maybe they're not, but there's really not a lot of proactivity there.
Right.
And I think showing up and being that person for someone else, you're not only kind of modeling the behavior that you want hopefully to see them carry on through the future, but you are really exposing people to that who maybe have not had anybody that they've worked with before that gave even a single like iota about what they wanted to do past 5 o'clock at that day. So I think it's wonderful that not only are you doing this for other people, but you're doing it in a visible way that also encourages them to do this for other people later on. It really does kind of show that like you don't have to wait, right? You don't have to wait to be picked. You can be a little bit more proactive and try and foster that feeling and that culture that you want to see, because these things don't start unless somebody does, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We've got about 7 minutes left. I know this time always goes really, really fast. If we can, I'm going to try and get to one more question before we go. But if you have a question that you haven't asked yet, send it in the chat. I will do my best to get to it before we are able to jump today. I want to make sure we've asked all these questions. Okay. Last couple ones. What is the thing that keeps you at Relativity? You don't think you're going to find it anyplace else. It's, your cushy parking spot, Taco Tuesdays in the lunchroom. The plant that's by your desk is your favorite thing you've ever seen. What is the thing that keeps you at Relativity?
Ooh. I think it's the curiosity of the people. People, like everyone we surround themselves with, are always like asking questions to learn. Like it's a bunch of life learners who want to get better at what they're doing and know about what you're doing. And that's really exciting to me that they might not know at all what my day job is, but they think it's the coolest thing in the world. I think their day job is the coolest thing in the world. And having that very collaborative, open environment where we're like celebrating each other's talents and like lifting them up, I think that's awesome. I'd stay for the people any day of the week.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Now, in the last 5 minutes, I want to talk a little bit more in depth about like what the company culture is like. We'll kind of focus on Relativity a little bit.
Mhm.
So let's talk interviews. If somebody's going in for an interview with Relativity, what is your top tip for them?
My top tip is to know your story. Because I believe at Relativity, like we are very open to having like really diverse, interesting life experiences. It doesn't have to be directly what the job description says you needed to do these 5 things in advance. But if you know your story of those transferable skills and how to get there, I feel like I'm an example of this with like doing the pro bono like work we do at Relativity. Like that wasn't my day job at all, but it gave me those skills to get into management. If you're coming from the outside in, the same thing applies that folks just want to see what you're passionate about and that you know how to describe how you got from point A to point B and why our company can take you to point C. And if you can craft that story really well with any of your background or transferable skills you have, I think you're going to be set up for success.
Yeah, I love this advice. I think it's also worth reminding people like, if you're interested in relativity, I've got some tips and tricks that we'll share at the very, very end here. But don't forget about Powered Fly, y'all. Don't forget about us as a resource. We want to make sure that we supply you with some great stuff for interviews, especially with a great company like Relativity. So sit tight for a couple minutes. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's see. I know we had a ton of questions that we wanted to get through today. Is there any subject or any area of this that we haven't touched on that you wanted to make sure that we talked about? Trying to think. I think we covered most of our bases here. Leadership development, blah, blah. Oh, okay. So let's talk long term.
Mhm.
I don't know about you. I'm 37. I am at the jaded millennial edge of like, I don't plan anything more than 2 years in advance because who the heck knows what's going to happen. Are you in that same field when you're thinking about like your personal and professional growth? How long out are you thinking? Are you thinking like, I want my retirement party to be held at Tavern on the Green and we're going to serve deviled eggs and it's going to be fabulous? Or are you like, you're thinking as far as like 10 years down the line?
Yeah, I think it's changed over time for me. I think before I used to be a very like present, live in the moment person. Then I went to an extremely like, here's my plan and here's all the 5 things I want to do to get there. Now I'm somewhere in the middle. And the way I guess the new year is coming up, we're in December time. Something that actually my partner and I do every year in our personal lives is kind of build our goals for the next year ahead. And some of them are what are like a few things we want to do in, like I said, now in 2024, things that we want to do relating to our relationship or to our home or to our community, like however we want to frame it up that year. But also things that we think maybe 5 years from now is like a nice theme to have. And so like we have some things that are very near term and tactical, and some things we're like, okay, like this is just the vision. And we can look back from last year's and see how the vision changed and laugh about it because it may be very, very different than what it was before. It might have been I wanted 5 dogs and realized that was a terrible idea. I cannot manage that in my small city apartment. Maybe just one is a good idea. And being able to do that together, I think, is how we think about at least like a lot of our goal setting and long term. So in the middle.
I like that. I think that's good. All right, y'all, this is gonna bring us about to the end of time today. But Jacqueline, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful to get to know you a little bit and get to kind of learn what your journey has been like. Really, really appreciate you spending time with us in our community today. So thank you so, so much.
It's been a gift to be here and so fun. So thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for thinking that I had something interesting to share and to say. I can't wait to even join these in the future and as a participant and a listener.
Yes, we would love to have you back. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. All right, y'all. That is gonna take us to the end of time today. So I've got the relativity page up here. We're gonna share the link with y'all again in just a second. Big thing to know about this page is the follow button. Okay, this big pink button right here. If you are actively job seeking and do not see anything right now that's posted with Relativity that interests you, smash that follow button. It's going to make sure that we tell Relativity you're interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. It's also going to allow Power to Fly to take the weight off of you in your job search because we are going to tell you when Relativity posts new roles. So you don't have to wait and memorize job boards, keep coming back and rechecking and rechecking all the time. You can kind of leave that a little bit to us. I definitely recommend that y'all check out Relativity. So definitely take a look at that. And then don't forget, if you think you might be going into an interview with Relativity, check out their company page. All right. Overview, the events tab, as well as company insights. Those are all really great places to find something awesome to talk about or ask a question about in your interview that is not the same Business Insider article that everybody forwards on LinkedIn. So just check it out. We've got some great resources there. And truly, y'all, Power to Fly wants to be here for you long after today's event is over. So please feel free to come back, check out our resources. They're all free. Hang out with us. We've got great events happening today, tomorrow. Don't forget our virtual job fairs happening tomorrow as well. So if this was your first Power to Fly event, I sincerely hope it will not be your last. If you are a frequent flyer with us, I cannot wait to see you again on an event soon. Have a nice afternoon, y'all. Bye.